Okay, so hello everybody. We are Gabriela and Paola from SC in English. Both of us teachers of English, teacher educators and CSE advocators. In this journey that started over a year ago, we have come across such very passionate, interesting, nice people, such as Heloisa, who is here with us today. Heloisa Duarte has been involved in ELT for over 26 years as a teacher educator, materials writer, consultant, and manager at national and international institutions in Brazil. She's a CELTA holder and has recently finished her MA in language education at Nile. Heloisa has been conducting research about teaching English to older learners for more than 10 years, which includes the access of older learners to language courses, ageism, and ways to benefit such students. And Heloisa is also a co-author in the Raise Up B1 book. In our chat today, we'll be talking about two topics which are closely connected: ageism and older adults in ELT, both as learners and as teachers. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being here with us today.
Thank you for inviting me. It's such an honor.
So thank you, really. Okay, so you told us that these topics, the topic of ageism especially, are very dear to you. Okay, can you share with us why?
Well, it all started a long time ago. The thing is, I had been teaching for many years when some 12 years ago, yes, I had my first older learners group. And it was an amazing experience, and I got so connected to these students. They were only women, and they were fabulous. But then I started noticing little things that happened in the classroom that prevented them from performing their best. And I started doing some research to try and understand what was going on. And this research opened the doors to so many difficult questions that I had to address in the classroom. And I started talking to them about that. And well, we had an amazing experience together. And because of that experience, I started paying attention to what was happening around me. And well, my mother's now 75, and whenever we go out together, I notice how treatment is different when people talk to her and when people talk to me. And we, like, for example, when we enter together a store, usually people come talk to me, even though she is the one who wants service or product in that place, because she's older, so people just assume I'm in charge, which is more often than not the case. Right, so and it's something that will affect all of us if it doesn't already. So it's something we should talk about more often. And I think that's why it's so dear to me, both topics.
Okay, and that's why we have invited you, because we truly believe it's, I mean, you're just great. And we truly believe that we need to talk about this, definitely. So you've written extensively about the perpetuation of ageist stereotypes in our field, in the field of ELT. So let's start by conceptualizing. What is ageism?
Right. So ageism as a term was coined in the 60s, early 60s, and it refers to the prejudice against a person on the basis of their age alone. So ageism could be referred to either young or old age suffer ageism. You know, when when people say, "Oh, you are too young to know something about this," or "You're too young to be good in this area," that's ageism as well. However, it's more common when we talk about ageism as a prejudice against people because they are older, right? But it works both ways, right? It either young or old, but it's a prejudice just because of your age, pretty much.
Yes. In one of your papers, you discuss a quote by Levi, which refers to older individuals fitting the criteria of people most likely to be stereotyped by children, right? So how do we internalize these stereotypes in childhood that then we carry into adulthood?
Well, the thing is, ever since we're children, we start observing the world around us, even as babies. So there are many factors that can help in that stereotyped view of children that children may have of older adults. It pretty much starts with the way children's parents treat older adults in front of them. So if we're talking about grandparents, how are they treated? Are they treated as children as well? Is the same tone of voice or the same way to address them? Or is it always like, oh, poor granny, or poor grandpa, oh, they're so frail, oh no, don't do that, oh, grandpa can't do this, grandma cannot do that, right? So all these things happen quite often. And we can't forget cartoons as well. So yeah. Even something as innocent as, oh, okay, let's put some cartoon here. Let's watch Disney, yes. Snow White, for instance. So we have the evil queen there, which is beautiful, fabulous, and she looks at the mirror, who's the fairest of all, because she's so beautiful. And then she tries to get Snow White killed by somebody else, doesn't work. And then when she decides that she must do that herself, she changes her appearance. What does she look like?
Yeah.
An old lady.
Exactly.
Right, and then she becomes an old lady, and the old lady is quite evil. Don't trust her. Don't eat those apples, right? And so that, in a very subtle way, or maybe not even that subtle, starts telling children, look, older people might not be as nice as you think they are. And then even when you watch like other Pixar, for instance, we have Up, the one about the house that goes flying with the balloons,
yeah.
Right? Well, what's the old man like? Grumpy and frail, and he needs that walking cane with the tennis balls on it, and his outfit is quite old-fashioned, and he doesn't like people, and so, or take what's the name of that one? La vida es una fiesta, I think. The one of the little boy in Mexico that he's with his family, and he wants to be a... Sorry?
With his granny, you mean?
And he wants to be a singer, and his family
isn't it
like
the one about
the idea.
Dia de los Muertos?
Yes, exactly.
I don't remember the title, but I know what you mean. Yes.
Yes, and then you have two women there. They're older. So one is grumpy and doesn't like songs and doesn't like him playing the guitar or singing, will not allow him. And the other one is so frail, in a wheelchair. She cannot talk, she cannot do anything. She's just there, apart from the last 5 minutes or so of the movie. So we receive these images of older people as being always frail or mentally unstable. That is also very common. Yeah. The crazy old lady is a very common stereotype as well. And we watch those in cartoons and in memes made exclusively for children. And then we start learning that and assimilating that. So, oh, right. So this is how they treat old people in the cartoon. This is how my parents treat old people around me. And we start picking up those hints and internalizing them.
Reproduce them. later on.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Throughout our
Our
lives.
lives, definitely.
And when it comes our time to look in the mirror and say, ooh, right.
Yes.
We don't
Now
like that.
I am,
We don't like
exactly.
that.
We fear age. We are terrified of getting old,
Yes.
which is just...
There is a whole industry around that, around those fears.
Exactly. Yes, definitely. I say that for women, it's even harder, right? There is a
As usual.
lot of prejudice. There is a lot of misogyny and sexism that goes hand in hand with ageism.
Yeah.
Like women, if you leave your hair the natural color, it's like, whoa, oh, poor thing, she has let herself go. She doesn't take care of herself.
But
Oh,
with men is different.
Yeah.
definitely.
They look
There's-
sexier and they
Yeah. Silver foxes.
like George
and they're-
Clooney or yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And women, when they start showing their white hair, it's like,
Oh my God.
oh my
What
goodness,
has happened to
there is
her?
white hair in there. Ooh.
Yeah. She's not taking care of herself.
Right.
Those
Yes,
things.
happy
She's
died.
getting old. Oh my God. Oh, really? She's a human being. What did
Yeah.
you expect her to become? Younger? It's not going to happen. We all
No.
age. And
It's not
Exactly.
going to happen.
we women, I don't know how it is in Argentina, but I suppose it's just the same. If you go into a drugstore, it's already a shock of ages and right in your face, because there are anti-aging creams and
Exactly.
lots of makeup and things to hide your wrinkles and hair dye and all kinds of stuff to prevent you from looking your actual age.
Yes.
Oh,
Definitely.
well.
Yes.
And I usually say that if somebody is selling you something, anything at all, and they claim it is anti-aging, don't
Don't
take
buy
it. It's poison, because the only actual thing that will prevent you from aging is death.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Because if you are alive, you are aging. Babies
Exactly.
are aging. We
From the
start
moment
growing
we are born.
old. Exactly.
The
And
moment we're born, you're right.
so we are all growing old, of course. And the only anti-aging would be stop living.
Yeah. Yes.
Not for me, thank you.
I
I
prefer to grow
I'm
old.
fine with that. Yes, I'm fine with that.
Lots and lots to deconstruct there.
Oh,
Lots
yes,
to deconstruct there.
To unlearn. Yes.
Yes, to unlearn.
definitely.
So let's talk about these stereotypes in ELT material, right? We have conducted an analysis of images and activities in a number of international ELT course books to
Yes.
see how the elderly are depicted there. So can you tell us about the results?
Yes. Well,
What did you find out?
Oh, God, it's slightly shocking. You know, when we were talking about ages and means directed to children. So course books just follow the same way. When you open a course book for children, for instance, you will find older people there, probably, but where will they be? They will be at the family unit, because you have to learn grandpa, grandma, so they will be there. And the thing is, there is this construction for the grandparents there that it's international. It's amazing. I've checked Brazilian books. My main research was actually on Brazilian books, but because I've worked with so many publishers, international publishers, I've always checked them too. And the beginning of my research was with international course books. So there are some stereotypes that are common to all of them. As like grandmother, she's going to be chubby, short, her boobs will be down here, and she will have white hair in a bun, always in a bun. I don't know what happens to grannies, but this is the case of illustrations, right? The hair always in a bun and round color, right? Very loose clothes, large glasses. Yeah, yes, definitely. And maybe with a walking cane and a string of pearls around their necks. I don't know why. And when you come to men, there will be bald or wearing a hat and moustache. It's quite common as well, large glasses, a bow tie. I don't know the last time I saw somebody
Nobody
wearing
wears
a
bow ties nowadays.
exactly a bow tie, and they are always wearing suspenders and a bow tie. I don't know why. And men tend to be represented a bit more on the grumpy side. Usually, they don't look happy and anything. And women are usually the sweet old lady, right? Either the sweet or the slightly mentally deranged
Or the
old
crazy
lady.
cat lady.
Yeah, that kind of that,
Cat.
exactly. The one who's gonna hit you with her handbag if you cross her path, something like that. And this is pretty much the kind of illustration we see, right? And when it comes to images, they're usually from image banks. So you can find these images, you can have access to these images pretty much anywhere in the world, right? And sometimes the same image is used in more than one course book. If you start paying attention, especially when it comes to older people, you see the same image. And there is this one thing that is common to most course books that I don't know where that came from, is that either they show grandparents, right? So if you're talking about older people, there'll be grandparents who only have lives when their grandchildren are around.
Exactly.
So they're just there hugging their grandchildren or playing with them or cooking for them.
They are passive.
Always. They don't even have names, right? Their names are usually grandpa, grandma.
Exactly.
And voices, they never have voices. If you try to find a listening activity that has an older person talking, it's really, really rare, right? It never happens. So they have no names, no voice, no hobbies, no life at all. So they only exist when their grandchildren are around. And if there's no grandchildren, they have no reason to exist in many course books. And when they try to show older people in a different context without the grandchildren, without any children around them, they're usually shown wearing white, walking around the beach with a dog. I don't know why, but that's the image. You see them walking around the beach with a dog.
You're right.
That's it. And I think this is as far as it goes. Like, we need to represent, it's like ticking boxes, you know. We need to represent some older adults here. Okay, let's find a nice picture of them walking the dog around the beach. And that's it. So you see the couple, happy, smiling, walking the dog. Right. Don't these people have friends, interests? Don't they go buying books, maybe go to the supermarket, they go to a restaurant? No, they will go to the beach, walk the dog. That's it.
Yes.
So even in places where these people wouldn't be in any position of like, I'm sorry, the word has just skipped me. Even if they're not the topic we're talking about. Like in course books, we have images of movie theaters, of restaurants, libraries. We have so many images of so many places, parks, and everything in a different context. We're talking about maybe present continuous. We are showing simple past or something. And there are never older people in these images. Even the images that are just there as an illustration for something else. Like the image is not the focus of the topic. there are never older people. It's like they disappear, they vanish completely. And this is a bit of social annihilation. So you just don't show older people at all. And many people who work with course books for children, they say, oh, we don't include many children in our course books because children do not identify themselves with older people. Yeah, okay, I get that. But you've got adults there, right? So we've got adults in course books. So what's the difference? We have only got adults and not older adults. So children do identify with adults and not with older adults. And I think this could be a kind of chicken and egg situation. Is it that children do not identify with older adults because they have no contact and they're not exposed to images of older adults? Or is it the other way around? We don't have older adults. So it's really hard to say, why is it that they don't identify? Of course they don't. They never see them.
Okay. Yeah. So there is this strong need to start representing the elderly in a non-stereotypical way.
Oh,
both
definitely.
in the materials, yes, in the materials and in our practices as well, right? So can we talk about materials first? What ideas can you give us, teachers, and at the moment of creating or adapting maybe the material we bring into the classroom? And how did you go about this in your unit in Raise Up?
Well, one thing that I always tell people when they say, well, I myself cannot relate to other people, so I don't know exactly what to do and how to represent them and how to go about including older adults in my lessons or in my materials. What I usually say is, think of yourself, because you'll be there, right? You'll be there. If everything goes according to the plan, you'll be there. So there's this thing with ageism that is unlike other prejudices. The perpetrators of ageism will become the victims of ageism at some point in their lives, if everything goes well. I mean, you know, the anti-aging thing.
Of course.
It could happen.
Of course, yes. It's not something we can escape.
Hopefully not, because it's a sign of life.
Exactly.
Right? If you're aging, means you are alive. And well, I intend to keep up the good work for a long, long time for now. And when I tell people about their materials, they say, well, think of yourself. What will you be in a couple of years? Maybe, and sometimes it's not even that long, you know. But even for all ages, what I usually say is, think of yourself. Picture yourself. How do you think you will be when you reach old age, whatever that means? Because old age is also a very fluid concept, right? The World Health Organization considers it to be 60. And I personally consider it to be somewhere around 70, but I don't know, because society is changing, and we've lately seen so many different aspects of aging. And the World Health Organization puts it that aging and society aging is one of the main aspects of the 21st century, right? So we are living longer. Longevity is a fact now. So what we used to consider old age as 60, we now see wonderful people, wonderful women doing fabulous jobs, and they are way past their 60s, and we don't even think of their age. So what exactly is old age? Is it when you start having white hair? Well, I started when I was 15, so oops, been around for a while. And is it when you start having wrinkles? It depends, right? So yeah, so it's really a very fluid concept. And most of the images we have and most of the ways we picture older people. They come from beliefs from decades ago. For you to have an idea, I don't know if you're familiar with Agatha Christie's books.
Yes.
I love her.
Me too.
You know, Miss Marple, the detective, the woman detective. Well, I love the books that show Miss Marple because she's so smart and I love her. And I tried to find out, because in my mind, Miss Marple would be mid-80s, maybe, somewhere like that.
That's what I imagine, yes.
You know how
Because of
old
the
she
way
was?
she's physically described.
Exactly. She's always knitting and she's always coached, so she wears shawls and
glasses
many
and yeah.
glasses, fluffy white hair, and she's so nice. It's the nice, frail old lady. She's 64. When Agatha Christie wrote that, she was thinking of a 64-old woman. That was 64 years old woman. So can you imagine a 64-year-old woman
No.
from these days looking like Miss Marple?
No.
No, not at all.
I'm thinking about my mom who is 70 and no, she doesn't look like that. No.
Exactly. So we have to come to terms with the fact that society has changed. We have changed, right? So when portraying older adults in course books, think of yourself in as many years as you think will take for you to be an older adult. But how will you be? What kind of activities do you think you would do? Because there is also this association between old age and sickness and frailty, which is a possibility. Of course it is, yes, but it's not a determinant. It doesn't mean that if when you get older you get sick. No, it's just a possibility. It's not a certainty, right? So every time I try to think of myself, what kind of woman will I be when I'm in my 70s? Well, I tend to believe I will be doing pretty much the same kinds of things I do today. I'll try to be working and keep up my professional life and everything. And I love traveling, so I'll probably be traveling a lot. And that's it. And buying makeup and buying shoes. I love shoes. And I think I will pretty much do the same things, going out with my friends and having a good time with them and getting a couple of beers and having a good time.
Remaining as active as you are right now.
Yes.
I mean, leading an active life.
Yes. I'll do my best to be as active as possible.
Exactly.
If I get anything, if I have any kind of disability or any physical problem, I'll still try to have a normal life. So why is it that when we think of older people in materials, they always have a walking cane and they're always frail and lonely? And if they are doing something, they're doing something with their families, no friends, ever. So yeah. I don't see that as actually happening. So I have no children, which means I will have no grandchildren. So that means I will never be in a course book at all, because I'm not a granny. I will not be a granny.
Same here, yes.
So I will be the old lady, if they want to call it that. I'll be the old lady traveling. I'll be the old lady having a good time with my friends, going to restaurants, going to bookshops, and going to the market, and just having a knife and walking around the park, walking around places, not walking the dog around the beach. One, because I don't like beaches very much, not really my thing. Two, because I haven't got a dog. I've got 2 cats. So it wouldn't happen, really. So think of yourself. What would you be doing? And when I wrote that unit for Raise Up, that was pretty much what I had in mind. So when you check other units of Raise Up, they have all topics. They are so important. And they are also topics that make you think immediately. When you start looking at them and reading and looking at the images, you start considering, and there's a lot of critical thinking going on there. In my unit, it's a bit more subtle because it's exactly what we never see in course books. It's just a unit that talks about the simple past. So it's introducing simple past and verb forms of the simple past.
Yes.
But the main character is a woman. She's called Lorna. So Lorna is in her 70s and she uses Facebook, and she's just showing on Facebook the pictures from her last trip. We don't know where she lives. She never mentions where she lives, but she's talking about her last vacation, her last holidays in Recife, in Brazil. So she's telling things she did, that she visited Recife and she danced and she played the drums and she had a good time and she was at this hotel, and the illustrations show that. So it shows the illustrations, they show her wearing shorts and makeup, and she's traveling and having a good time and just partying and staying at this hotel, and she's fine. And she's traveling by herself. So there's no grandchildren around, her children. We don't even know if she's got children or grandchildren at all. And she's got another friend who's on Facebook as well. We don't know her age, by the way, it's shown in the book, but we can assume she's about Lorna's age, and they're just friends. So there is no need to show the family and the grandchildren, and she's traveling with somebody. No, she's an independent
she's
woman.
She's not in the role of
70s.
a grandparent.
Exactly. She's in the role of a happy woman.
Exactly.
And why is it?
Life.
Exactly. And why is it that we cannot be just shown as happy people or people minding our own business when we're older? Why is it that we have to live because of our grandchildren, because of our children? Why is it that we cannot be just happy people?
Exactly. Now, turning to our practices, right, inside the classroom. How can we teachers make our lessons more age-friendly when we teach older adults, for example?
All right. One thing that is very important is to start with, if you're having a mixed age group, do not ever pinpoint that person saying, oh yes, because you're older, so I'll do this especially for you because you are, oh, no, never. So just adapt the whole lesson, the whole environment for all your learners, because each learner has a story there, so you never know what's going on. So first thing I would say is use bigger handwriting and try to fix your handwriting if it's too bad. Try to make it as readable as possible, but that's for any student, right? For any group. And write big letters, depending on the size of your classroom, of course, right? Maybe the board's a bit too far from students, and if they happen to sit somewhere which is a bit further from the board, maybe if you use larger handwriting, it helps a lot. And the volume for listening activities, and even the number of repetitions. And of course, it depends on the level as well, right? If you're teaching operant or even intermediate students, it doesn't mean that you have to treat them as if they were A1 students, oh, because they're old. Of course not. They're nice people minding their own business, and there's something about the profile of students that must be taken into consideration as well. Because up to a couple of years ago, maybe a decade ago, when you saw older adults in the classroom, it was usually because they wanted just to do something for their brains, for their minds to work a bit better, to improve memory, and to have a hobby, or because it was something they had always wanted to do and never got the time or the money to do that. Fine. It's still happens a lot nowadays. But longevity has brought us a different panorama as well, which is older people, they need to learn a language, maybe to get a new job or to keep their current jobs, right? Or to improve in their jobs, or because they are going to take an MA course or a PhD and they need English for that. So this stereotype of older students in the classroom, they are just there for the fun of it. That's not true. Well, it never was, but now it's even more so, right? So you don't know what your students' motivation is for being there. So help them. Of course, there are things that happen to our bodies as we age. They're just normal. So maybe your eyesight gets a bit not so good as it used to be, and your hearing changes a bit. So why not helping learners in that aspect? And these changes, they start to occur when we are 30. So when we talk about bigger handwriting and repetitions and all this, we're talking about students past their 30s, not only when we're after 60s or 70s, right? So changes start happening quite earlier than that, right? And also, of course, taking into consideration the physical aspect of the classroom, right? Are there stairs to reach the classroom? Are these stairs too steep? Do you think they could be a problem? Are the chairs, are they comfortable? Is it easy to sit on them? Because there are those with the armrest. There is sometimes a bit more complicated to sit and stand up, and the kinds of activities I'm doing. Do I expect my learners to go about running in the classroom in a sort of dictation or dictagloss or something? Do I expect them to run? Am I being realistic with that? Right. And of course, I have a student, she's in her 70s and she runs. So her hobby is running. So if she's a one-to-one student, but if we were in a group and if we were performing some kind of dictation like that, they have to run and get some information and bring back, she would be fabulous for something like that because she is a runner. And I would really suck at that because I'm really bad at that. Just trying to run and remember and coming back, I would be really a failure with that. But she would do really well. So it depends a lot on the kind of student we're talking about. It's really trying to understand your group's needs, and the way they behave, the way they interact, right? And well, that helps a lot with students' motivation as well.
All right. What about teachers as older adults? Is there ageism in ELT there as well?
Oh yeah, yes, it's a shame, but there is a lot of ageism still. And again, it happens on both extremes, like, oh, you're too young to teach this group because you look too young, so you look young, so you'll be teaching only young learners. You will not teach the advanced courses because you look too young, so people will not trust you. What? And also, oh, you're too old to be a teacher for children because they will not relate to you. Oh, really? Oh, seriously? And also, when women want to leave their hair grow naturally without dyeing or not wearing makeup or not wearing high heels or something, it's always expected from us to look younger and fresher and makeup and hair dye and all that. And it's really complicated. So we also see that happening to older teachers, male teachers, but it's more often with women, right? And even things like I've had a teacher telling me that she was not considered for certain groups in the private language institute where she worked because those groups would be using a course book that had a lot of technology built in. So they would be using wikis and web platform and LMS, and oh well, that teacher was too old
to know how to work with technology because she's an old lady.
Exactly, exactly. And when she told me that, she was actually saying, well, maybe they're right. But what do you mean maybe they're right? You have just shown me, she had just shown me how to use this online resource that was really cool. And you have just shown me that. You have just taught me that. So why exactly do you think they might be right? And that has to do with some other theory that was studied, started in the 60s as well. There was the stereotype threat. As we said at the beginning of this talk, that children start learning about ageism. They start learning how to be ageist from a very tender age. And we grow up with these beliefs. So we keep up replicating them and repeating all these actions and internalizing them at the same time. So we tend to believe that older people cannot do this, cannot do that, cannot this, cannot that. So if you open a fashion magazine, there's bound to be something about the kind of clothes you have to wear at a certain age, and then it's not appropriate for older women to wear this or that. It's not appropriate for older people to try this or that. And then and also about our capabilities. So when you're older, you cannot learn. When you're older, you cannot use technology. When you're older, you can't. And we learn that. We keep repeating those patterns, and we internalize those beliefs even without even thinking issues. And when we reach old age, we bring all that stereotypification into ourselves. So we think we cannot do this, we cannot do that. And when people tell you, oh, maybe you're too old for this, we start believing because we've brought with us all this baggage saying that we can't. And for teachers, so right now we're facing the pandemic, and many teachers are saying, well, I don't know if I can do this anymore because it's all online and I'm too old for this. We're never too old for anything. We can learn. There's something called brain plasticity. So our brains are always shaping themselves in a way to learn more and to keep up improving. And neurogenesis, up to a couple of years ago, we used to believe that our brain would stop producing new neurons at a certain age. And now science has discovered that it's not true, right? It's not as fast as it used to be, but our brains keep up producing new neurons, right? So new neurons are born all the time in our brains, and our brains are constantly adapting themselves to new situations, new learning, new challenges, right? So teaching online might be something of might look like something like of an unsurmountable obstacle when you first look at it, especially if you have listened to all this kind of ageist discourse all your life. Sorry?
Yeah. No, it's these ageist remarks that we are exposed to.
Yeah.
All the time, as you're very well saying. Yeah.
And the stereotype, Yeah,
Using
the
technologies.
stereotype threat starts just ringing there saying, you can't, you can't. Of course you can. Calm down, deep breath, cool down. You can. You can do it. You've learned so much. You've survived so much to this day. Of course you can learn a lot more. Just give yourself the opportunity to do so.
Yes, yes, and embrace it as a challenge, as any other.
Yes, exactly. Uh, um, I've seen young teachers, like in their early 20s, struggling with teaching online. It has nothing to do with age. It has to do with the way you're used to do things, the kinds of platforms you're used to, right? And it has to do with practice.
Exactly.
So when you start doing it, you start getting the grip of
Getting
it.
better.
Yes, that definitely.
Okay, this is so interesting. We could go on forever. Really,
Yeah.
we are learning
Yes.
so much. We're learning so much, but we have to round off. So before we finish, would you like to share some reflections, some important things that what you would like to share with the teachers and the student teachers who are watching us, just to round off?
Oh, yes. Well, two things I'd like them to keep in mind.
Okay.
There is this one saying by Vivian Cook that I love and I tend to repeat over and over and over. That is, learning a new language is not adding a room to your house. It's taking up all the walls, right? So it changes everything in your brain. So imagine you're living in a house for 60, 70 years. And then instead of just adding a new place there, you start tearing all the walls and changing it all, walking in there, right? And while using your house for other things. So this is a bit of what it feels like learning new after a certain age, right? Especially when you have not learned languages in our cases for a while, and then you start doing it again. So cool down, let your learners try and take their time and come to terms with the learning process, right? Do not rush everything, and do not expect them to underperform, because that's really cruel, and that happens quite often. Give them an opportunity. And most of all, teach your older learners and represent older adults the way you would like to be treated. So teach your older self. When you look at your older learners, see your older self in them, because you will be there, hopefully. And you're a teacher, I suppose you never stop learning. So picture yourself in them and teach your future self. I know you feel a lot different when you start thinking of them as yourself. And this othering thing, oh, they are old, I'm not. Yes, you are. It doesn't matter how old you are. If I ask a 3-year-old if you are old, their answer will be yes. So you are old already. It depends on who's looking. Age, as much as beauty, is in the eye of the beholder. So do not consider your learners as too old for this, too old for that, because you will never be too old for this, too old for that. Don't other older people. Embrace and think of them not as them and you. Think of them as yourself, if not now, your future self.
Okay. That's so nice. That's so nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Thank
I'm sorry,
you.
I
It
get
was
a bit carried away.
no, it's wonderful. It's just wonderful. We as
Yeah.
you said before, we could be hours. We could spend hours talking about this, and you're so nice to listen to. Okay,
Thank you.
you're very passionate. You're very passionate about
I
this,
am.
Very clear.
and
And very clear as well.
yes, I'm very clear, which is very important. It's as important as being passionate. Yes, you're very clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It was very, very interesting. Thank you very, very much.
Okay.
Thank you for this fantastic opportunity. Thank you for having me, and count on me for anything, any project you think of. We can do it together.
Oh, that's just great.
That's great. We have so many ideas in mind right now. So
yay!
that's
Lovely.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.